Yes, we are live. We are back. Welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. We are back with the Raw after WrestleMania 41 post-show. And I tell you what, we're going to get right into the main event angle in just a second and what that means, a new Paul Heyman faction. But what I will say is coming out of this weekend's WrestleMania, after a very lackluster Saturday, saved by a really good main event, and then a good start to WrestleMania Sunday, and a main event that absolutely disappointed and wasn't a great watch and felt very weirdly overbooked and uninspiring and just poorly executed, and a lot of critique of the creative in WWE, the creative process, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's influence on it. What I will say is what we got tonight with the Raw after WrestleMania was one of the best episodes of WWE Monday Night Raw that I have seen in a very long time. I think credit where credit is due. I'm going to criticize what I don't like and what I think needs improvement, but I'm also going to praise what I did think was good. That, in terms of post-WrestleMania episodes, is one of the better post-WrestleMania episodes I've seen in quite some time. Of course, there have been, some amazing post-WrestleMania episodes of Raw. I think of the Raw after WrestleMania 28, really one of the first times we spoke about the sort of the amazing crowd after the Raws after WrestleMania. If anything, what I would say about tonight's Raw after WrestleMania is probably the worst thing about it probably was the crowd, to be honest with you. The crowd in Vegas, for a post-WrestleMania crowd, they were pretty quiet. But in terms of the action, in terms of the storylines, in terms of the matches, in terms of the surprises, in terms of anything you can possibly think of, that episode of Raw delivered. It progressed stories. It quickly pivoted to new things. It gave surprises. It gave twists. It gave turns. It gave NXT call-ups. It gave free agents coming back. That is what I think you look for on an episode of Raw after WrestleMania. That's what you look for. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've already got close to 100 people through the door. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can see right there we're at 21,305. Get your thoughts in, get your comments in, get your super chats in. They'll go up on the screen. New subscribers and super chats and members, they should pop up in the top right-hand corner of the screen grab there. What was your favorite moment of the Raw after WrestleMania? What were your thoughts as we close out WrestleMania weekend? Let me know your reaction to it. I'm going to do what we did for the post-WrestleMania Sunday show. I'm going to start with the end. I'm going to start with the closing main event segment, which, as you can see, is right there. A brand new faction, a brand new dangerous alliance, if you will, because not only is Seth Rollins a Paul Heyman guy, but also so is Bron Breakker. And what this actually is, this is art imitating life. And what I mean by that is what we saw and what we have heard for quite some time is Paul Heyman has worked with Bron Breakker quite exclusively since he's been called up to the main roster. And Paul Heyman, in the same way that he, was very involved in the Bloodline creative process, and he was very involved in producing a lot of the Bloodline segments and writing the Bloodline segments, involved in that, by all accounts, with all things Bron Breakker, he's been heavily involved in a lot of Bron Breakker's promos and a lot of Bron Breakker's creative. He's been an unofficial producer for a lot of Bron Breakker segments. And now, as I said, art is imitating life. Now he's becoming a Paul Heyman guy on screen when largely he was a Paul Heyman guy off screen anyway. And if you watched WrestleMania with me, particularly WrestleMania Sunday, and we spoke about the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way match, I did mention this, that it became very apparent to me that obviously the idea was we're going to get the Intercontinental Championship off Braun and onto Dom. But if you watch that match, there was really two aims of it, was get the title on Dominic Mysterio, and two, make Bron Breakker look as strong as possible in the process. The amount of spots and the actually, if you look at that match and you go back and watch it, that Fatal 4-Way match was built around Bron Breakker looking as dominant as possible. Facing off against Penta, facing off against Dom, facing off against Finn, throwing them around, doing power slams, doing tackles, doing spears on Carlito through the announce table. It was built around how do you lose an Intercontinental Championship and look as strong as possible in the process. And the reason why is because That was it was just basically to get the title off Bron Breakker because he's going to be involved in a main event angle. And you look at directions for Backlash now, that says to me, at Backlash, we're probably going to get a tag team match here. We're going to get Roman Reigns and CM Punk forced to team up with each other to face Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker. And the question, I suppose, then becomes, who eats the pinfall in that one? Because I don't think it should be Seth, and I don't think it should be Bron. It's got to be either Roman or Punk. And Roman ate the pin at WrestleMania, so it might actually be Punk. And now this sort of trifecta story involving Reigns, involving Punk, and involving Rollins and Heyman suddenly has an extra element to it, because not only is it about, obviously drawing tickets and doing business, but it's also about building up a new star. It's also going to be about building up Bron Breakker as a top main event heel now, because you've got to remember too, Bron Breakker, since he's been on the main roster, he's been this tweener character, hasn't he? Depending on who he's facing, he's neither a babyface or a heel. If he's facing a heel, then he's a babyface. But if he's facing a babyface, then he's a heel. If he's facing Jey Uso for the Intercontinental Championship, he's a heel. But if he's facing Dominic Mysterio, he's a babyface. Now he's quite clearly defined, isn't he? Now he is a heel. He is a Paul Heyman guy. He is part of a faction, and I'm glad that they did that for the main event segment, because if you watch the watch along back, I was a bit critical because I wasn't sure really where they were going with it, to be honest, because we get effectively, if I go back a few slides here, you'll be able to see what this segment was, and it's because Triple H, he pulled the fast one on us. So effectively, we have Seth Rollins comes out with Paul Heyman, and even that was somewhat surreal, to be honest with you, somewhat surreal, because we're so used to Heyman coming out with Roman, or so used to Heyman coming out with Brock Lesnar, or so used to Heyman coming out with CM Punk. To see him walking to the ring with Seth Rollins is going to take quite a while, I think, to get used to, definitely. And the crowd sings Rollins' song, and he's, drinking it in, and he doesn't get to say all that much. All he says is that, he took a wise man from Roman Reigns and he stole CM Punk's best friend, and with that cue, out comes CM Punk, taping his fist, coming to the ring, and we get some physicality. And because of the distraction, because Punk goes after Heyman, and it allows Rollins to get the stomp, and then we get the credits on the screen. And I thought, is that really it? That's your cliffhanger to go off the air. Raw after WrestleMania, after the weekend you've had, WWE and Paul Levesque, you can't afford to have another creative dud to close out a show. Not 2 nights in a row. You just can't. And to be fair, I probably should have given him more credit, because like we saw on Saturday, in this storyline, maybe not the John Cena one, but in this storyline, the creative is solid. And the twists and turns are laid out ahead of time. And remember, The Rock isn't involved in this one. So because The Rock's not involved in this story, they can actually do long-term creative. They can actually plan things out a little bit in advance without The Rock just showing up and throwing a curveball into things and then having just to make it make sense after the fact. The Rock's not involved in this story, so they can actually plan things out ahead of time, and they can actually do good creative that makes sense, twists and turns that you don't see coming, but when you do, you go, I'm interested in that. That works. So they did the Triple H classic of putting the credits on. Oh, that's what they're doing. That's what they're ending the show with. Out comes Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns hits the Superman punch. It's a spear on Seth Rollins, Superman punch on Heyman, but then someone spears Roman Reigns, and it's Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker comes in, and then he spears Roman Reigns through the barricade. So by Roman math, people are going to talk about Steiner math. By Roman math, that means he's out, probably until SummerSlam, or at least Backlash. They'll do the match at Backlash, I think. And then we get the new faction. And look, I'm into it. I'm going to be honest, I'm into it. It's different. Obviously, Heyman with Rollins is a different dynamic. Heyman with Bron Breakker, I think, is really exciting. Bron Breakker is the future. He can cut a promo. Obviously, he can work. He's got a great look. It works. And when it comes to Heyman, I think it's exciting because we've seen everything that Heyman's been doing recently. We've seen Heyman with Roman Reigns now since 2020. So we've seen him with Roman for 5 years. Prior to that, we saw him with Brock for, best part of a decade, really. And kind of, the dynamic's great, but you want to see something different. This is different. This is different. This is fresh. And I know Heyman turning on Punk isn't necessarily fresh. He's done it before in WWE history, but Heyman being an advocate or an agent for Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, I think that's exciting. I think that's an interesting angle, and I'm interested to see where they go with it. That has whet my appetite, and to be fair, Paul Levesque was right when he said that a lot of people look at WrestleMania as an end point, but what if it's actually the beginning of something? And what it is the beginning of a new dangerous alliance. Now, I still say, with what happened with Becky Lynch on this show, I think we still could see our first ever Paul Heyman girl. I think that this is just the beginning for this faction. WWE under Triple H has liked their factions, whether it's the Bloodline, whether it's obviously the Judgment Day, whether it's, you name them. We've had quite a few factions. And I think this could be the beginning of another one that's just the beginning. I don't think that that's going to be limited to just those two. I think more could be coming. So we'll see. We've got 156 people watching, which is great. We've currently got 30 likes. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes. If you haven't already as well, be sure to subscribe. You can see right there, we're at 21,309. The goal is to get to 25k by the end of the year. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Obviously, with everything that's happened throughout WrestleMania weekend, all of the news, we're going to have news videos throughout the week. I'm probably going to do a countdown video tomorrow as well on like the Raw after WrestleMania, just talking about big moments, what it could mean moving forward, etc., etc. So that's going to be going up tomorrow. And then, of course, you can see on the side, but their upcoming watch-alongs and post-shows that we've got. We've got Backlash is coming up at the beginning of May. Speaking of May, we've also got AEW Double or Nothing at the end of the month. So we'll be doing watch-alongs and post-shows for that. A lot of people have been really enjoying these watch-alongs over WrestleMania weekend. So I might start doing them a little bit more frequently when it comes to Raws and SmackDowns, if schedule permits, because it's not always easy and feasible to do. So I'm not going to say it's going to be every week, but if you guys want it, then we can see if we can do it. So if the demand's there, absolutely we can. Super chats are also open as well. We've got our super chat goal. There's been so much generosity over this WrestleMania weekend. Loads of people putting in their super chats, supporting the channel, joining the WN365 roster. It's been overwhelming is an understatement. I don't know if we've ever had as many super chats or as many members or anything like that over this weekend. It's the most I've ever streamed on this channel on consecutive nights. It's the biggest WrestleMania weekend we've easily ever done, smashing records on this channel. So thank you to everyone who has liked, shared, subscribed, donated, got a membership, gifted memberships. It's been an incredible weekend, and we've still got this Raw to talk about here. So thank you. It's been incredible. Let's see what people are saying here in the chat. Bobby G says, Vakur versus Iyo Sky, match of the night. Iyo MVP of the weekend. King of the Indies says, what a match. David says, I need Heyman to do some Steiner math at some point. Double A says, Drew, maybe third member. Chiku says, Seth was getting stagnant in the last year, but now I'm excited for him. David T says, I didn't hate WrestleMania, but I loved this Raw more. And I know what you mean. Like I said, I'll give credit to Paul Levesque in the sense that I do think that there was a lot of criticism, justified, I think very justified, coming out of WrestleMania, but they've delivered a top show here. And I'm actually really interested to see what they're going to do Friday for SmackDown too, because we know Aleister Black's going to come back on Friday. And let's see if Cena's going to show up more on SmackDown. Of course, he is the champion, although we do also know his dates. He's got very limited dates, specifically 27 for the rest of the year. So how they're going to spread that out over the next, 4 months? So over the next 8 months, 27 dates. We shall see. But let's go through the remainder of the show. So as you can see right there, John Cena, the 17-time, not 16, 17-time WWE champion, kicked off the show. He had pyro. He's got this now all dark look. He doesn't have graphics and what have you. And he spoke about how that he's basically, yes, he's going to retire as the champion. And yes, they'll crown a new champion. Yes, they'll create a new championship. But he will have the championship that has the lineage going back to Bruno Sammartino, that Roman Reigns held for over 1,000 days, that was held by Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Didn't mention The Rock, by the way. So I'm still going with the theory that they're pissed off with The Rock for constantly basically doing the hokey cokey creatively with WWE over the past year and leading to that turd of a main event involving Travis Scott, which also, by the way, they didn't mention. Did we get any Travis Scott mentions? We barely got any Travis Scott mentions because guess what? It made no fucking sense. It made no sense last night. They had 24 hours to try and make sense of it, and they couldn't. They couldn't make sense of the Travis Scott stuff. They couldn't make sense of the Rock stuff. So you know what they did? They just moved on. they just moved on. No Cody Rhodes on the show or anything like that. They went, we can't make any sense of it, so we're just not going to talk about it. We can't make any sense of the Rock stuff. We can't make any sense of the Travis Scott stuff. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. And you know what? That might be the best thing. Because if you try and make sense of it, if you try and make sense of nonsense, then I suppose the joke's on you. Cena cut a very good promo. As you can see, right, this was actually quite cool. So basically, he showed that when he came back, he was announced for, was it 34 dates, 38 dates, whatever it was. And he literally counted off the dates that he's already done. And it got down to, I think it's 27 or 24 dates, something along that. It's in the 20s. And as he pointed out, he said, look, winning the championship's the hard bit. And now I've got it. And I've got all of these dates. And I don't have to wrestle. You know, I don't have to wrestle on all of these dates, as he pointed out. He clearly pointed out, I don't have to wrestle. I just have to show up. I can just do this. And you say you can't wrestle. I don't have to wrestle. And I think this is a really clever story here. Of basically, now it's a race against time. As he pointed out, time will go past quickly. Effectively, WWE now has 27 opportunities to get the championship off John Cena before he retires, because if they don't, he's taking the WWE championship with him. I like that. I think that's a quite clever thing. I like the idea of effectively them working against the clock. And obviously, it will get down to single digits. And this would be like, this is the last chance to take the championship off Cena. This is the last chance to do it. I think that's an interesting one. It reminds me of the Ric Flair storyline when he retired at WrestleMania 24, where Vince McMahon said, your next match that you lose will be your last one. So suddenly every match became a career-threatening match. If you lose, you will be forced to retire. And
tell me,
I think that's an interesting one.
You didn't just say that.
I did just say that. I think that's an interesting one, and I like that addition to this. So he's holding up the championship, and then you get that right there. That right there, that's the shot. You get Randy Orton sneaking behind him, and also behind them, ironically, just completely hilariously, Hogan Fears Unions. It's just terrific, isn't it? That's just tremendous. I think that might be my favorite screen grab of all time. Had it not been for the ending of Raw, that would have been the thumbnail that I would have gone with. But the ending deserved to have a place on the thumbnail too. But that's terrific. That's great, isn't it? How could you look past that? That's tremendous. Randy Orton appears out of nowhere, drops him with the RKO. So we're getting what we kind of assumed would be the case, which is Backlash, be John Cena's WWE Championship defense, and it'll be Randy Orton versus John Cena. We assumed we're getting it because Backlash is in St. Louis, Randy Orton's hometown. We're going to be getting Randy Orton, John Cena one more time, arguably John Cena's greatest ever opponent. And I think that, and this is the thing too, I did see people in the chat saying this. They were saying, yeah, but John Cena, Randy Orton in 2025, what's that match going to look like? I don't think it really matters, to be honest, because that event's going to sell out. The promos are going to be great. There's a lot of equity there. There's a lot of history there. I think if you're going into this feud expecting a good match, I think that's the wrong thing to be focused on. It's nostalgia, but it's also a retirement tour. It's built on nostalgia. You know, when Cena announced he was going to retire at the end of the year, people started going, right, I hope he faces this guy one more time. I hope he faces this guy one more time. I hope he faces this guy for the first time. We're going to get a mixture of both. We're going to have some of his greatest hits, but we're also going to have some matches we thought we'd never see. We're going to get Cena Orton. We're going to get Cena Punk. We're going to get Cena Reigns. We're going to get Cena Rollins. We'll probably get Cena Bron Breakker. We'll probably get Cena Gunther. We'll get Cena Cody again. So we're going to get a mixture of he's faced them before, he hasn't faced them before. And the match itself isn't going to be great. We saw that last night. Cena is, frankly, a shell of himself in the way that he works. Orton debuted at the same time as Cena. I think they're similar age, aren't they? Orton can definitely still go. Cena, not so much. But I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. I think it's one more time. It's nostalgia. It will sell tickets and it'll get people watching for a show like Backlash as well. It'll do bigger numbers than your average Backlash would do. And I think that's the point of it, isn't it? Big up to Bobby G with a super chat. Huge generosity over this WrestleMania weekend. It's really much appreciated, Bobby. You've put in so many super chats. And as I always mention, I know that obviously a lot of channels here on YouTube, a lot of wrestling channels probably get a lot of super chats. But they really, really, really do make a difference. So thank you for everyone that's putting a super chat over this weekend. Or like I said, got a membership or just click like or watched. It really, really does make a massive difference. And like I said, I've definitely had the biggest and best WrestleMania weekend we've ever had here on the channel. This is my 37, 30, 38, 39, 40, 41. So 5th WrestleMania I've done live. I've done 6 Manias on the channel, but this is the 5th one I've done live, and this is the most I've ever streamed over a Mania weekend. And your guys' support throughout all of it has been absolutely incredible. And I'm actually so proud of the community, little corner of YouTube that we've managed to create here. Obviously, like I said, I know that there are bigger channels, and I know wrestling's a niche thing anyway. Hopefully, obviously, with the Netflix stuff and the exposure, it's getting much more popular. I think so. But I really do think it's amazing. We've sort of carved out a little own corner of YouTube with this WNU, the Wrestle News Universe. And over the last 4 consecutive nights, we've come here, watched some wrestling, had some fun, bullshitted, spotted patches on people's ring gear, and just had a good time. It's been amazing. So thank you for the super chat, and thank you everyone for getting involved. It's been great. It really, really has. So that was in terms of an opening segment. Great promo. Great attack by Randy. Sets up the Backlash. We didn't get an announcement, but we'll get one. That match is happening. Then we got this Women's Tag Team Championship match, a WrestleMania rematch. The new champions, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, defending against the Judgment Day. But we've got new tag team champions. Yes, they were only champions for a day, as a bit of miscommunication. There was a great Oblivion by Liv Morgan, and Raquel and Liv are the tag team champions once again. And Becky Lynch was furious about this, so she attacked Lyra Valkyria, attacked her, turned heel, and then walked out. So, first of all, getting the belts off them is the right move. I'm happy with that. I still think what happened to Bayley at WrestleMania is bullshit. I think it's now likely that Becky Lynch attacked her, isn't it? Becky probably attacked her at WrestleMania. So Becky and Bayley are probably going to do their thing at some point. Becky turning heel, I still say I think Becky could end up with that faction. I like the idea of Becky Lynch being a Paul Heyman girl. I like the idea of Paul Heyman managing both Rollins and Becky, and I like the idea of that faction becoming bigger. So you've got Paul Heyman's fingers in quite a few different pies there, haven't you? You've got it in the main event scene with Rollins. You've got it in the women's division, which he's never really gone that much of a foray into. You've got it with the next big thing, if you will, with Bron Breakker. I think that works. That could work. I'm not that jazzed about a Becky Lynch Lyra Valkyria feud because I wasn't that big on her having 2 titles anyway. Just because I just don't think that she's connected that much with the audience. I was a bit, going with her being the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion. I thought that could have been put on someone that was maybe a bit more over, but it was the right call. I don't like the idea of basically they switched titles in back-to-back nights just for Becky Lynch's purpose. And still, like I said, what happened to Bayley I still think is bullshit. But with the creative situation that it was coming out of WrestleMania, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with that. And I'll take that. And I think that was probably the best creative they could probably do in that one. So there's that. We then had the New Day come out. They were interrupted by Maxine Dupree and the Alpha Academy, but this was all for the return of Rusev. Rusev is back in WWE. He's back on Raw, and he took everyone out. He absolutely took everyone out. Rusev is back. It had been reported that he'd recently signed a new contract. He was at WWE headquarters, and he had returned, and he took everyone out, and it was a good reintroduction. Looks great. I don't know. It's difficult to judge what he is out of that segment because he attacked baby faces in Tozawa and Otis. He also went after the New Day, and they are heels. I don't know what his first feud's going to be. We didn't really look at that. I think it was just a case of getting him back onto TV. It's going to be interesting now to see what they do with him because look, Rusev in AEW, or Miro in AEW, he didn't really work for 18 months. He had a couple of matches, and all of the reports were that he'd had a couple of injuries. In addition to that, he was pitched creative. He didn't like it. I think it was quite plainly obvious, wasn't it, that he was one of those people that when Triple H got creative control of WWE in 2022, he wanted to go back to WWE because that's ultimately where he always wanted to be. He just didn't want to be there with Vince McMahon in control, and he had worked well under Triple H previously, and he wanted to go back to where he was familiar with, and he didn't really want to be in AEW all that much. Okay, fair enough, goes back there, but we'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what happens creatively. Moving forward with Rusev. I just realised, Bobby J, I didn't even actually read your super chat. I just went into a thank you to everyone. He said, thanks for a great weekend. It was fun. Super Raw. Owen, you're the guy. Amazing job. Now you can get some sleep. See you on UV. Well, yes, tonight I'm going to get some sleep. Obviously, I won't be on the morning show tomorrow because it's only in a few hours. There's a Flex's View, so you can check that out in the morning. But I'll be back Wednesday morning on the morning view, and then we'll be back to normal. Next up, we had Iyo Sky cut a promo. Actually, a pretty good promo, actually, considering second language and all that. Cuts a good promo out there. And then it leads to Stephanie Vaquer making a surprise appearance. And they have a match on Raw that I thought was a fantastic match. Really, really good match. Had all of these different spots in there. A Spanish fly, you can see. And then it's interrupted by Roxanne Perez attacking Iyo Sky. It gets basically a double disqualification. But it's not only Roxanne Perez who gets involved. It's Julia who gets involved too. We know that Roxanne Perez is facing Stephanie Vaquer tomorrow on NXT. I don't know if I would look at this as a call-up for any of them. I think it might have been more like there's just going to be cross-pollination with NXT, and I don't know if it's a thing. It might just be cross-pollination with NXT and Raw, and just to once again continue to plug NXT on the biggest Raw of the year. But fantastic match. I'm a huge fan of all four competitors. The NXT Women's Division, like I've said this many times over WrestleMania weekend, it's the best women's division in the world right now. Shawn Michaels deserves huge credit for his booking of that division. In addition to that, I think WWE does deserve a huge amount of credit for their recruitment for that division. It is absolutely stacked. And if anything, they probably do need a couple of them on the main roster because I feel like maybe on SmackDown, the SmackDown Women's Division is kind of struggling. So we'll see if it's. I don't think it's an official call up. But this leads to Rhea Ripley coming out, chasing them off, hands her championship back to Iyo Sky. It says I'm coming for it. So I mean, maybe we're gonna get again some kind of tag match. Maybe Iyo's on NXT tomorrow. It's in Vegas, and they get involved, and that leads to a tag match. We'll see with that. But I don't know if there's any real challenger, and I don't really know what's next for Rhea after this too. We shall see. Now this was odd. This was very odd. And if you haven't already, click the like button. We're at 120 people watching. We've got 57 likes. Once again, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. You'll pop up in the top right-hand corner there, and you'll move us closer to our eventual goal of 25k by the end of the year. Jey Uso came out for a celebration. First of all, I don't think it did any favors with the notion that his entrance and catchphrase is maybe more popular than him, because he got in the ring and they just wanted to have his entrance played again, which they did. This then led to Sami Zayn coming out. Now, if you've watched pro wrestling long enough, like myself, you go, people are never happy for you in wrestling. Other wrestlers are not happy for you in wrestling. Sami Zayn came out and said he was so proud of. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, and you deserve it. And he's going crazy. And he goes, right, let's yeet together, let's celebrate together. And they celebrated, and they celebrated, and they celebrated, and it was just awkward. There was tension, like you could cut it with a knife, the level of tension. And at one point, Jey Uso went to the turnbuckle, he was posing to the crowd, and Sami Zayn was standing behind him, and you thought, he's got to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to attack him. And even the crowd started cheering, going, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then nothing happened. Nothing happened. In fact, Jay's brother Jimmy comes out, gets involved, and you go, well, okay, I guess that's it. But as Jamie said, that just planted the seed. It felt like that has to be what it is. The seed must have been planted there. That's what it just feels like, doesn't it? Seed was firmly planted there. I wouldn't be shocked if they drag it out a bit more. Someone mentioned it on the watch along. They effectively repeat the Kevin Owens Cody storyline, which is they have a match as friends, and then after Jay wins that one, Sammy turns eventually, but the turn's happening. And you know what? Whilst I don't think that he will be the one to end Jay's run, if Jey Uso is a world champion, then Sami Zayn deserves one too. He was super unlucky not to get the championship, obviously, with the Roman stuff. He was super popular then. It just wasn't his time because the plan was clearly to keep the title on Roman for over one more year and then give it to Cody. But there was an argument to be made that Sami was so popular at the time with obviously the bloodline angle. So if you want to talk about elevating people to world championship status out of the bloodline storyline, obviously that's happened to Jay. Why can't that happen to Sami? For the world championship that is secondary in WWE, which is the world heavyweight title. Why not? Why not? So I think that's an interesting seed planted. We then had a backstage segment involving Karrion Kross getting angry at AJ Styles for losing. AJ said he's not going to turn into that guy. Karrion Kross, I'm glad to see him on the show. Cut a great promo. Obviously, was doing the rounds on socials. I don't know if he's going to get a push because of that, but clearly they're carrying on with the AJ Styles Karrion Kross feud. We then get this big angle. This was another big angle. I told you it was a pro wrestling angle show. So Gunther comes out. He's furious. He's shouting. He's ranting and raving at ringside. He then gets into the face of Michael Cole and Pat McAfee and says, you know, you guys have been saying stuff about me. You've been doing this. You've been doing that. Michael Cole gets up and says, well, in all fairness, you tapped out at WrestleMania. He rips the headset off Michael Cole, shoves Pat McAfee. Then he's going to choke out Michael Cole. McAfee comes over to Gunther, punches him in the face. And then when McAfee turns his back, you see right there, and he starts choking him out. It was funny because the Pat McAfee show was at ringside. They showed the cast members from the Pat McAfee show earlier on in the show. And they jumped over the barricade. And at one point, it was funny that it felt like more security and officials were trying to stop the Pat McAfee show from helping McAfee than actually breaking up Gunther, choking out McAfee, which is like, maybe get your priorities straight. But in fairness, given all of the potential lawsuits that WWE could face over the weekend with Stone Cold Steve Austin running into people and a golf cart running someone else over outside Allegiant Stadium with Dominic Mysterio inside it, maybe that's why they thought, fuck this, we don't need any more lawsuits, don't let the Pat McAfee show touch him, perhaps. But it was a big angle, and as you can see there, they did the thing where Pat McAfee got helped to the back. He sold it kind of ridiculously. At one point, he was just walking to the back. Clearly, someone said sal. And then his way of selling was to do maybe the worst cough ever and go purple and fake vomiting. But it's pro wrestling. You know, it is what it is. What I did like about this, and this kind of did feel a bit old school angle to me, is they kept playing it out throughout the whole show. So, you know, Adam Pearce says to Michael Cole, take the night off. You know, you nearly got choked out. Your commentary, your commentary partner got choked out. Take the night off. And he goes, no, I'm not going to let some bully stop me from doing my job over Mania weekend. Gets a big pop. Well done, Michael. And makes his way out. They had Joe Tessitore at ringside. And again, it's the little things, isn't it? It was a nice little touch of Joe Tessitore. He didn't have his jacket on. He looked a bit disheveled, like I've just been told to go out there. I wasn't even ready. I was just kind of here relaxing. I wasn't all dressed up and prepared. You know, that little things like that. And they kept going throughout the show. Can someone check on Pat? And Michael Cole, a couple of coughs. And yeah, it's a bit corny, but I do like the idea of, that those little details, the little details of stuff like that, I do think are interesting and well done. So, I think that's I thought it was a good angle. You know what I mean? I'm all for a good pro wrestling angle. One of my biggest things I enjoyed in the build up to Mania was the angle that they did with Gunther and Jimmy and the blood and stuff like that. I always enjoy a good pro wrestling angle. I'm all for that. So I thought this was a good bit of business. I know people were saying, does it mean Gunther's going to face Pat McAfee in a match? I hope not. I would prefer that it's just a reason to write McAfee off TV. I mean, McAfee isn't a full-time commentator. He sort of comes back for seasons. He comes back for WrestleMania season. Then he goes away. He's got College Game Day, and he's got, and what have you. I thought it was good stuff. Marco Rose says, "You just have never been choked. You just constantly have a cough and spit like you're throwing up. Trust me, he saw it legitimately, and that's how it feels. I've been choked before. I just thought, it was just a bit, it just wasn't this is going to sound crazy, but it wasn't the best worked cough. You know what I mean? It wasn't the best worked cough, because at one point he was just walking to the back, and clearly someone said, 'Pat, you got to sell it a little bit, boy. Go down, catch your breath,' that kind of thing. So it wasn't the sense of like I'm complaining about the cough. I'm saying this like it was a bit, he went from not really selling it to selling it loads, and it was like, oh, what's kind of going on there? But I like the angle. I thought the angle was good, and like I said, I think its purpose is to write McAfee off TV and give something for Gunther to do. Next, we had the Intercontinental Championship match. It was Dom defending against Penta. Dom gets the win because JD McDonough's back. And they had this kind of thing where Finn looked like he didn't realize that JD was back. I was just feeling at one point that maybe they were all... someone's getting kicked out of the Judgment Day, isn't it? Someone's getting kicked out of the Judgment Day. Is everyone going to kick out Finn? Is Finn going to get everyone to kick out Dom? Because Dom's kind of a babyface here and Finn's jealous. Something's happening. I don't know if I really care. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really have... Because they're still the Judgment Day, but they're not really the Judgment Day of Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest time. And it is kind of like it's done, isn't it? The Judgment Day is kind of a bit on life support. So... yeah, I don't really care about, but Dom's super popular, obviously. And then we get to the main event segment, like I said, which we've already discussed, with CM Punk brawling with Seth Rollins, gets stomped. Out comes Roman Reigns. Reigns gets his hands on Heyman, but Bron Breakker's there and spears Reigns through the barricade and leads to this new faction getting shown right there, which, once more, is... maybe a new dangerous alliance, perhaps. So that was the Raw after WrestleMania. Like I said, I thought a really good episode after maybe not the best WrestleMania weekend and certainly not the best build to WrestleMania 2. I spoke about this quite a lot, that Triple H got criticized a lot this weekend, and actually in the week building up to WrestleMania, what you also saw was Triple H get pretty salty. He had some things to say about people complaining and people criticizing him. And it took me back to the black and gold era of NXT in sort of 2019 into 2020 when they first got on USA Network, and there was criticism of the booking on that, going, it's not that exciting, there's not really that much happening, there's a lot of wrestling and they're good matches, but the characters are a bit stale. And when he was put with that criticism, he didn't like it, and he would say, well, then don't watch. If you don't like it, don't watch. And at the time, people weren't watching NXT, they were watching AEW instead of NXT. And you could tell that bothered him. Obviously, it bothered Vince McMahon. He ripped up the entire NXT team at that point and fired a load of people. But it bothered Triple H. And he was criticized for his booking in the build-up to this WrestleMania because it wasn't a good build to Mania. As I said, it was a two-match weekend. And one of the matches delivered in the main event of Night 1, and the other match didn't really in Night 2. It was the outcome, but the execution wasn't great. And a lot of people went into this Raw tonight going, you've got to give us something, because that Mania wasn't it. It just wasn't. There were some good matches, but it wasn't it. And I think credit to Triple H and credit to the WWE creative, because they stepped up and they hit a home run. They hit a home run tonight, and they hit a lot of home run segments. And they've developed a lot of stories there. They've got some returns, and now it's just a case of, can they continue that momentum? Friday on SmackDown, they'll have more returns. It'll be interesting to see what happens post-Mania there. but I thought it was a good, very good Raw and a very good Raw after WrestleMania, and a good way to end what was a very mixed weekend, to say the least. So there you go, guys. How many likes did we end up at? We've got 120 people watching. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get to like 100 likes on the way out. Be sure to click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. We're 21,312, and you can join the WN365 roster if you haven't already. I know I kind of touched on this a little bit when the super chat came in, but once again, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys over this WrestleMania weekend. This is the biggest, best, and most successful WrestleMania weekend I have ever had here on the channel. The channel's been going since 2019. I've really been consistently uploading and doing news videos, doing live streams since really 2020. So it's about 5 years now, half a decade doing this, the grind. And this is the most I've ever streamed over a WrestleMania weekend, most consistently, and it's all because of you guys. It's all because of you guys. It's all because of you guys tuning in. It's all because of you guys sending your super chats in, clicking the like button, just interacting in the chat. I think that I'm so proud of what we've been able to build in this little community, this little corner of YouTube, talking about something as, crazy as wrestling, and like-minded people coming together from all over the world, different ages, different countries, and all just having a laugh. I think it's fantastic, and hopefully this is just the beginning. Hopefully we can continue to build the WNU throughout this year. A lot more content, get a lot more people involved, and just have fun. I know wrestling is a bit niche, and people know me from United View and doing football stuff, which is maybe a bit more broad, and I know it's not for everyone, but the fact that it's 4:45 a.m. over here in the UK, and there's over 100 of you here listening to me ramble on or get involved in the chat, it's more than worth it. And once again, just a huge thank you. It's incredibly humbling, it's incredibly gratifying, and hopefully, like I said, this is just the beginning. So thank you for a fantastic WrestleMania weekend. I hope I did good by you guys. I hope you guys had an entertaining time watching along with WrestleMania with everyone, not just myself, but everyone in the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will be back in the future for more watch-alongs, for more live streams, for the daily news videos, for the countdown videos, and everything in between. Thank you. And have a great rest of the week, and I'll be back tomorrow with more videos. I'm out of here. Have a good one. Peace.